Good morning, everybody. My name's Alison Roberts. I'm the Head of Marketing and Admissions here at Swiss International School. Welcome to our primary open morning. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us this morning. Just a couple of housekeeping things. We are recording the event. That's mainly for the families that aren't able to join us at this time in the morning, but we will obviously send you the link afterwards. And you're welcome to view it with your partner and friends, and obviously review the presentation again. And just in terms of keeping the presentation flowing, we will encourage questions. Please do ask questions, but please type them in the chat. And then once we finish the presentation, we'll obviously respond to all the questions accordingly. So this morning, you will hear from our two senior primary academic leaders, Emmanuel Gauthier, who's our head of primary, and Brian Nolan, who's our deputy head of primary. They will both be talking to you about the primary school experience, the primary years programme from an IB perspective, and the bilingual options that we have available. So we hope you enjoy the event. Please do ask any questions in the chat. We'll obviously stay online afterwards, and we look forward to sharing our school with you. So I'll now hand over to Emmanuel. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So as was stated, my name is Emmanuel Gauthier. I'm the head of primary, the very proud head of primary school at SISD, and very pleased to see you and to hear you today and to read from you. I've been working in different setups in international schools, in boarding schools, internationally, in the UK, in Africa, in the Middle East. I was in Abu Dhabi before joining Dubai. I am a parent as well, which is always interesting when I'm a part of school children here at the school. And also with us is my deputy, Brian Nolan. Brian?
Good morning, everybody. As Manuel said, my name is Brian Nolan. I am his deputy head and responsible for pastoral care, well-being, student happiness at SISD. I've been in Dubai for the last 10 years, working as a teacher before a deputy head, and I'm very proudly one of the founding members of SISD as well. So I'm here since day one. Incredibly happy at this school. Like Emmanuel, I am a parent as well, but very recently I have one small child. He's not quite old enough to be here yet, another couple of years, but he is on the waiting list, and it's really nice to meet everybody.
Good. So we're going to continue by introducing two key members of our school, of course. Norbert Foster, who is our head of school, and Norbert's background is in psychology, but he's been also leading. He was the head of the Geneva Association of Private School. He's also the current co-president of the Swiss Federation of Private School. And as many of us here and on this call, Norbert is a polyglot. He speaks many languages. And the next person who is very important is our school founder, Omar Daniel, who built the school. And again, Brian was there at the start, but it was something else. They started with a car park. And then the school has grown. Now we are very proud to be presenting at the primary school, but we're very proud of what the school has achieved in the last 6 years. And Omar Daniel is very present. He's here every day. I speak to him every day, and he's very attuned to all educational matters. I can tell you that. Now let's focus on our school a little bit, and it's a very diverse and inclusive environment, very culturally stimulating environment. We speak many languages in this school, and we celebrate those as opposed to a monolingual school when sometimes we have to speak the language, the French language only or the English language only. We celebrate diversity. You will see that we have, I think it's 78 nationalities. An interesting point to think is the second largest nationality is Swiss with 105. I think the first one is French, but by not many more. I'm going to make this up, but I'm not far. I think 100, well under 200, 165, I think, which means that there is no dominant nationality. So it's really multicultural, which represents pretty well the diversity encountered in Dubai. I'd like to talk about our values, and again, it's extremely interesting to work and to live in a school that stands by its values, and it's often that schools come forward with their values, and sometimes they don't really live them. We do here. So BEST, bilingualism. Of course, bilingualism in English and French and English German. We'll explain to you how that works a little bit later. We can add Arabic to this because we do again celebrate languages, but Arabic, our host country language, is also very present in all we do. The learning environment, the community is multilingual, and again, it is extremely linguistically stimulating. So that's bilingualism. Excellence, I'll tell you a bit more in a minute, but excellence is in all we do, in the quality, of course, in the layout of the school, in the setup of the school, but also in the teaching, in the learning, in our excellent pastoral care, which Brian could tell us a bit more later. Sustainability, physically, of course, with our very sustainable campus, in our practice, even more importantly, I suppose, we have a whole school sustainability coordinator, one shows that we do sustainability well. So we are like the green school, we've got the flags and the stamps to prove that. But actually, as I said, educationally, we need to offer the children an education that is sustainable, and that's very important. And that's also part of sustainability. And together brings it all together, the student, the staff, the parents, we all do this together. And there is a very, very strong sense of community at SISD. As you saw, inspiring excellence. Now it's not the value, it's the mission statement. It is in our statement. So in our learning of languages, in our learning of education, Brian will tell us a bit more later about the IB and what it stands for as well. So we inspire excellence under the IB framework, of course. But we have qualified, experienced educators. All language teachers, all homeroom teachers in primary are native speakers. They're all native speakers, and the vast majority of them are bilingual or even more than that. So that's also the excellence that we have. And we're very proud of having this Swiss excellence under the Swiss patronage of the Canton du Valais. And we're a member, as mentioned before, of FGIS committee as well. So we are of SGIS school groups. Along the way, we've accumulated a few awards, and you know what? At the top of there, that's one of the ones I'm the most proud of, is the happy and healthy school community. That's very important. Of course, we do well, we teach well, we learn well, but you know what? A happy school, especially in our setup in primary, it's extremely important. And of course, the health and safety, the sustainable is there. We also have an agreement with Dubai Cares, which is our charity of choice. And we also have some agreements with the Dubai health authorities to assist and to welcome people of determination. Now, SISD is interesting, Swiss, and there is the S, the second S there stands for scientific. So what is scientific? You will see, again, we'll explain a bit later, the two main streams of the school, the bilingual stream and then the STEAM. So IB bilingual and IB STEAM. STEAM is in everywhere, is in our world and in the future as well. STEAM is going to be very, very important. I'll tell you a little bit more about STEAM a bit later, but that's the S in there, is about the technology, is about science, of course, is about innovation, interdisciplinary curriculum, and the use of technologies in there. So we'll tell you a bit more what the S stands for when we talk about the STEAM stream. The IB programs. So IB is interesting. I think literally lately, very recently, I was reading even more that I think that those numbers are almost, we've got more than 5,000 schools now around the world that are following the IB program. Now it's interesting, it's not a curriculum, like those of you who come from French curriculum say, oh, this is le programme français or the British curriculum. It's not that exactly, it's a framework. And under that, we can use different programs, and that's what we do in our school, taking the best of not both worlds, but of many worlds, especially under our Swiss patronage, which includes the French curriculum, Swiss, the German curriculum, and the English curriculum. And IB programs are extremely popular with universities. I think, Brian, is probably the next slide. universities are welcoming the IB learners and those who possess the IB diploma. I often mention as an anecdote that my wife is the university careers counselor in the school, and I pretend I know quite a lot, and yes, I do by chance almost listen to all the webinars and all the presentations about universities, and I'll tell you one thing. The universities love the IB students because not only do they possess the knowledge, but they've got those skills. And just a little thing that universities do like, those people are resilient. They do not drop after the 1 year, which is the highest. Usually in universities, I think 40% of freshmen in American schools or first year university students tend to drop. And our IB students do not drop, and they continue and they do really well as well. Added it to our school, to our context, that our students possess IB and they are bilingual. Again, doors are well open around the world, in the US, in Europe, in Canada, of course, around the world. And skills for life. Now, this is very interesting. All these reports that tend to say the jobs of the future. I remember reading something from a Dell research as well, telling us the 10 jobs of the future, or the 10 skills needed in the future. These are ever changing, but yet again, as we said before, and Brian will tell us a bit more about the IB learner profile with the student at the center of the learning prepares the children, as I said, not only to be knowledgeable, but also, you know what, one skill which is at the top there is to be flexible and adaptable. Being able to learning how to learn is very, very important nowadays. It is still for us right now who are working, but it will be even more important for our children in the future.
Thank you, Emmanuel. I might jump in now if that's okay.
Thank you.
As we begin to focus in on our primary school, and specifically at SISD, you've already just heard from Monsieur Gauthier, who is our head of primary school. He is supported by 2 deputies. So as explained, I am the deputy head who focuses on those softer skills maybe that Emmanuel was talking about, developing students' attitudes, the attributes we want them to have. I look after behavior management, student well-being, and different student initiatives around the school, creating student leaders, for example. And then Emmanuel and we're also supported by the second deputy head, who is Miss Shona Gastaldi. She is focused on all things academic, so report cards, curriculum development, curriculum design, curriculum review, etc. That is Shona, who very happily, she's disappearing off the screen right now because she is on maternity leave, and we are now supported by one of our grade 5 teachers who has stepped up to the plate. So we are now supported by Anne Osborne for all things academic. So maybe some of you after this meeting will have some follow-up questions that are very specifically academic, and you'd like a document shared, or you'd like to go deeper, we will refer you to Anne Osborne, who will be able to answer those questions for you. Okay, Emmanuel touched briefly on the IB. We are really focused in primary with the PYP, the Primary Years Programme. This is a picture, a map, if you will, that can help parents who are new to the IB to begin to understand it. A lot of parents will come from the French system, and maybe the Swiss national system, the Irish system where I come from, and you will have paranoia or a fear that it's a different type of system and how can I understand it. The whole system is summarized in this wonderful graphic. There's a lot in there, I'm not going to go through it, but this is a great place to start if you want to begin. First of all, you should head over to ibo.org. This map, the first thing, I'll just point out 2 or 3 things and then we can move on. The first thing I'd like you to notice about this map is right in the center, the bullseye, the target, is a picture of the 3 students, the early year student, the middle year student, and the high school student, and they're at the center of the learning. That is true about the IB. That is why I'm an IB educator rather than the Irish system or the British system, etc., because the student is truly at the center. You'll see that for me, the very, very important thing about the second layer is this word here, concept. This is a concept-based approach to education rather than, for example, I was educated in Ireland, it would have been content-driven, where the book was the most important, page 5 followed by page 6. This is concept. It's a much deeper way to learn. It's less surface, less rote learning, but more our understanding of the world. That's supported by the approaches to teaching, the attitudes, etc. The next layer, you will see the different subjects that we have: science, art, mathematics, social studies, etc. And then the second from last layer are the 5 transdisciplinary themes. So we can study sharing the planet, which will touch on science, language, etc., etc. So this is a go-to map if you want to try and understand or remember different elements of the IB. The 5 essential elements we have for the IB are knowledge, approaches to learning, attitudes, action, and key concepts. Now, the knowledge is something that reassures a lot of parents when they see our curriculum, see an IB school's curriculum. They'll realize that in terms of our exposure to the knowledge, it is based off the French curriculum, the Swiss curriculum, the Irish curriculum, the Canadian curriculum, etc. We take the best of the best, and we structure our curriculum that way. Our approaches to learning would be where you see the first difference. Our approach to learning would be more hands-on, more creative, more innovative. And the attitudes, for me, of course, being the pastoral leader, are the most important element. And this is how we create students who are not just able to sit exams and to achieve an A grade. These are students who have those softer skills. They're able to be innovative, creative, collaborative, etc. And like Emmanuel touched on, this is why students from IB schools are being accepted to the university, because children from all over the world can achieve an A by studying, but how are they with the interview? How are they if they're given a collaborative task? We find that students from IB schools are excelling in these areas. Action taking, also one of my favorites, and again, something that was missing when I went to school. A lot of theory, a lot of knowledge. How do we get to apply it? How do we get to take action? This, for me, is the most exciting thing about IB, is that we can develop these learners who are focused on taking action. If we had the time, I would spend 10 minutes now giving you some examples of things that were happening right outside our office window this week in the parent car park with students taking action. It's quite phenomenal, the stuff that's going on. And this is all supported by our 8 key concepts. So these are the 8 chosen concepts that we use to dissect any area of any subject within the curriculum. So again, there's a lot here, but what's important for you to know as a parent is the IB is it goes very deep, and we maintain those essential elements, especially knowledge. Okay, the learner profile that Emmanuel touched on. The learner profile is a profile of attributes, 10 different attributes that the IB have deemed the most important. So these are what we want to develop in our students in order to create, this is the finished product. So it won't happen in your first year at SISD, it won't happen in your first year as an IB student, but once you spend time in an IB school, these are the attributes that we seek to develop in your child. So can they be a risk taker? This is the one I always go to first. We have many children who are good at completing homework, sticking to a timeline, collaborating, fantastic. Risk taking is the one I always go to. I can't think of another educational system that promotes risk taking in a safe, controlled, healthy way, like the way the IB does. So once your child is exposed to the IB learner profile through a couple of years of education, they begin to really become knowledgeable, balanced, risk-taking inquirers who are principled, open-minded communicators, etc. A lot of buzzwords there, but these are the only 10 attributes that are really focused on throughout their whole career, and we develop them in a very meaningful and authentic way. I'll hand back over to Emmanuel now. He will begin to talk you through the different pathways we have in our school.
Thank you, Brian. It's a lot simpler than it looks, I'll tell you that. If you look at the primary school, you can start looking from grade 1 to grade 5, and we'll go into more details in the subsequent slides. But we have 2 main streams. One of them is called IB bilingual, so bilingual in English and French, or bilingual in English and German. And then the second one is the IB STEAM. So this is where we are, and we continue this from grade 1 to grade 5. If you know it's the French curriculum, it's CP to CM2. If it's the British curriculum, year 2 to year 6. Can we go to the next slide, Brian? Because then we'll detail a little bit more. So IB bilingual. Now we do this also in 2 different ways. Where when the language acquisition is so important in those younger years, and this starts already in the early years section with my colleagues in KG1 and KG2, and then grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, we have a co-teaching model. Co-teaching is an interesting concept. It's a fantastic human resource investment from the school to be able to have the luxury of having two teachers in the class all the time, all the time. An English teacher and a French teacher, or an English teacher and a German teacher. And this really allows, this is so important. Why at those ages? Because again, the language acquisition is so important. So first of all, of course, the receptive skills are first employed, that the children receive the languages at the same time, and then the productive skills, producing the language, the speaking and the writing, then kick in, and then they develop over a period of time. There is a time, if Brian was saying, they will not, the children will not develop these attributes, learner's attitude in 1 year. Again, the language learning requires a bit of time, a bit of stamina as well, and engagement from all parties involved, at home and at school as well. So co-teaching model, extreme personalization. Usually in the chat, they will start coming. We have questions, and we'll be able to develop a little bit more on how things happen in the classroom. But yet again, two teachers in a pastoral side, of course, it's ideal. You've got two qualified teachers looking after your child. And in terms of academics as well, it allows the teachers, after some pre-assessment, some observations, and some more formal assessments as well, to address the children's needs, of course, academically, but of course, linguistically, in a very personalized fashion. It's beyond differentiation, it's personalization. So that's the co-teaching model, grade, if I may, from KG1 actually to grade 3. In grade 4 and 5, this is the more, again, pretty unusual. You don't have that many bilingual schools around the world, but what I encountered with my colleagues from around the world, it's a week A, week B scenario, when the children are in full immersion. So on a week A, everything is French. Even the displays are in French. You're in a French classroom with a French teacher. In a week B, you go into English. And then the two teachers swap. They all teach two classes, if you see what I mean. And of course, collaboration in a co-teaching model, of course, but in an immersion system as well, week A, week B, the two teachers do not repeat the program, just continue the program, of course. And that is more adapted to the grade 5s and grade 4, grade 5 students, to prepare them to what's about to happen in secondary school as well, with different teachers teaching different subjects. We also, I told you before, we celebrate Arabic. It's also a Ministry of Education requirement. So of course you got the English, French, English, German, but we also have lessons of Arabic per week. Now the IB STEAM. So IB STEAM, the language of instruction now is English. Okay, so we have those calls sometimes, these virtual mornings with some parents. I say, oh, we don't have any languages at home. Fantastic. Please join us, and your children will be taught in English, but then they will have increased lessons they will have, of course, native speakers, teachers teaching them extra language lessons. So in primary, that's 5 lessons from grade 1. Again, second to none, I think, in terms of language provision for acquisition of the language. Now, it's a little bit different. Those lessons are also split. Those 5 lessons a week are separated into two models, if you want. So 3 of them are, if you want, acquisition of grammar, vocabulary, and of course, conversational language as well. And 2 of these 5 lessons are included into our STEAM model. So the children learn the language in the context. So they learn the German language, let's say, whilst learning engineering, whilst learning the arts or the science or the technology as well. So that's an interesting content. It's called Content Language Integrated Learning. CLIL, C-L-I-L. I would encourage you to Google that. And that is very important for those reluctant learners who were not too sure about doing so much language. Well, actually, they learn the language whilst doing science. They don't realize it almost, but they learn the language through doing science, arts, technology, etc. And the STEAM program is very important as well. This is something, we were talking about the skills of the future. STEAM is hands-on. You're doing things, you're learning to see reactions, how things react, and it's very, very important. It's a very important skill of the future. STEAM also happens in the other streams, by the way. It clearly happens in secondary as well, through our transdisciplinary approach anyway, as Brian described a bit, the concept learning. So STEAM is always present, but a bit more of a push there in the IB STEAM stream. Brian, thank you.
Thank you, Manuel. One of my roles, aside from the well-being and the pastoral side, is more logistical. So making sure Manuel is supported and our students and teachers are supported with things like timetables, buses, etc. So some of the essentials for parents, you'll be interested in transportation at SISD, our lunch canteen, catering side of things, our medical care, our libraries, and our uniforms. So I'll give you a quick run through now, and perhaps there'll be more questions in the chat afterwards. In terms of transportation, we offer a door-to-door bus transportation service, meaning that they will be picked up, of course, right here on campus, and they will be dropped not across the road from your home, not at the supermarket close to your home, but at your front door. In terms of our canteen, we have a state-of-the-art, stunning canteen, if I may say so. And we focus on organic food and organic proteins. There's a real focus on sustainability as well. So our children, you can bring a packed lunch and you can eat in our canteen. So we have that social element, but also you can avail of our lunch here. There'll be menus you can choose from online on the app. They will be your child will collect them, or they'll be delivered to your child at their table. And there's a real focus on organic, healthy eating, but also about sustainability and how we clean up after ourselves. We have a green team here at school who have a composting program. So we have state-of-the-art, not just in our service, but in our care for the environment, links to our sustainability core value. Our dedicated health team is made up of 2 nurses and a fully dedicated doctor here on campus who is here 5 days a week. Something we were very proud of in previous years, but now this year something we are incredibly grateful for with everything that's going on in the world, to have a full healthcare team here on site, including a dedicated doctor, is something that has not just put parents and students at ease, but staff as well. So a real highlight of our school. We have 3 libraries across the school dedicated for each of our sections. So an early years library that dedicates in early years literature, primary years for the age group of 5 to 11-year-olds, and then our secondary school library as well. And across those 3 libraries, we have over 40,000 references across English, French, and German, of course, as well as Arabic, Russian, and some other mother tongue languages as well. And then finally, we have something we get praised for quite often is our uniforms here at school, and obviously quite important for parents. I don't mind sharing with you, we had a child who had moved to another school after a couple of years here and quite quickly returned back to our school for various reasons. And one of the top reasons, I asked this 8-year-old girl the other day, what was the reason? She named a few related to academics and teachers and friends and stuff, but one of her key ones was the uniform. She said, Mr. Nolan, the uniform here is comfortable, and she started to describe the uniform, and then she said something quite profound, as children can often do, and she said, Mr. Nolan, you can't learn if you're not comfortable, which I thought was very profound coming from an 8-year-old. But we have a very flexible and comfortable uniforms here. Girls can choose between a skirt or long trousers or sports shorts. So there's 3 different options. They all look very smart. They're all the same color. They're all branded nicely, high quality. But I know particularly as we get into secondary school, Mr. Gauthier has 2 teenage daughters, and they appreciate the fact that they can wear long trousers if they feel the weather calls for it. They can wear a skirt if they want to look more formal. But then we also have very smart sport uniform. So something we get praised on from our students and our parents quite often. An idea of our school day. We have a school day in early years. First of all, the drop-off time is the same for everybody, starting at drop-off between 7:55 and 8:10. 8:10, our doors into the classrooms are opened and the children will arrive. Lessons start at 8:15 across the whole school, so same so far. And then our school day is a bit shorter in the early years. So up to 4 and 5-year-olds, they will finish earlier at 2:20 p.m. and then their first bus will leave, or their ASAs will begin at that time. From grade 1, so from primary all the way up to the end of secondary, the day is extended for an additional hour and 10 minutes. So we will go on till 3:30, at which point then we will have our buses leaving at 3:45, or our ASAs. If your child does an after-school activity, football, ballet, whatever it is, there'll be a second batch of buses then that go at 4:45. So we will have buses going at 2:45, 3:45, and 4:45, meaning your child can spend as much or as little time on campus as suits your family. Examples of our after-school activities. It says here we have more than 50 ASAs. I remember when I actually had to tot this up over the entire year, over 2 semesters. we had a government inspection. It was closer to 100 different after-school activities that we offered. And as you can see here, we have a mixture of internal and external. So our internal are included in your fees. They're led by people like me and your children's teachers. So they would be homework help, extra English reading clubs, bands, choirs, etc. And then we have external ASAs that are paid for as well. So it says football there, but what it actually means is this is Barcelona, for example. There's a Barcelona football camp here. So you have trained professional football coaches branded with the Barcelona. As you can imagine, our students love this. And that's across football, tennis, chess, karate, drama. We'll do them in different languages. So we'll offer, for example, drama in French language. We'll offer things in German language and English language as well. And then for our more competitive and more elite students, we have our sports teams. So again, this is included in your fees. This is run by a mixture of specialized coaches from our sports PE team and people like me and the teachers. We will have competitive football teams, basketball teams, huge swim squad, tennis teams and track and field. And if you go to our website, you'll see our excellence coming out there. We are quite a successful school. We bring home trophies every year, particularly for football and swimming. I know for a fact we bring a lot of division trophies home and a lot of tournament trophies home. So something we're very proud of. Okay, I'll hand back over to Emmanuel.
Yes, a very interesting, it's not an after-school activity, which is the point here. It's during school activity, which is our mother tongue program. We started this presentation by saying how multicultural and multilingual our community is. And we are able to offer some lessons, some mother tongue program for the native speakers in Italian, Russian, and Spanish. So the children do this during the lessons. So you don't have to take your car after school or at the weekend and bring them to some institutes for them to learn these languages. It's happening during lessons, and these are very popular actually with our growing Italian community and Russian communities in particular. So a very interesting addition to the not after school activities, but extracurricular activities. I think we're going to hand over now to Alison.
Yes, thank you, Brian and Emmanuel. Just before we move to the final questions, I just wanted to give you an update in terms of how we're running the admissions process, obviously during this COVID time. So we are now able to do personal individual school tours, but only when the campus is empty. So essentially from 4 till 5, any weekday, we can offer school tours to families that would like to come and look around the school. And then we have moved all of our admission process online just to make it easier and safer for families. So the application form is online. We are doing an online assessment for the children, and that's really just to understand the level that they're at for key subjects, and obviously just to look at the languages if you are applying for a bilingual stream. And then obviously the offer will be sent to families via email. Next slide, please. And then just before we go to the questions on chat, these are the ways that you can contact us. Obviously, please do contact the admissions team. They're very happy to answer any questions, book school tours, or equally, if you'd like individual Zoom meetings with any of the people that you've met this morning, they would all be very happy to do so. So we'll now invite you to ask any questions that you have. Please feel free to type them in the chat. We will let Brian and Emmanuel know, and they will answer accordingly. And in the meantime, thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you, Alison. Alison, I'm going to start because there was already a question about a student joining us potentially in a German bilingual stream, and how they would be able to readapt or not into a monolingual gymnasium in Germany, but that would apply for the French learners as well, who are a bit worried of going back to the more formal Education Nationale. We are a transient environment. Dubai is what it is, and we are very experienced in this. We're getting children joining us from different systems, and we're having children leaving us, moving on to different systems. So we are well practiced, that's what we do. And usually we have beautiful success stories. But just to be a bit of transparency there as well, I mentioned at the start that the collaboration between the home and school and the children, of course, and to the benefit of the children, is very, very important. Commitment, a bit of stamina, a bit of, one of the things we're in primary, aren't we? Reading 20 minutes in both languages with your child every day is almost a non-negotiable. That's one of the things I would say before just stating, yes, of course, come to our school, we'll take care of all this, and in 4 years' time, she will go back to grade 6, and she will be fine in a gymnasium in Germany. But yes, so we have experience of this. The children do that as well. We assess regularly, internally, external assessment as well. We use also the European Center for Languages. So our external assessments are recognized in the European context as well. So we are able to assess the children quite precisely and advise you on the next steps. But that's quite common, of course.
I think an important point as well, Emmanuel, is we don't just assess our students internally. We do a lot of internal assessment, but we triangulate with external assessments, and we will use specific German language assessments from Germany. We will use specific Swiss assessments from Switzerland, from France, and then we're able to not only assess our children how they're performing at their time in our school, but comparatively to students back in France, students back in Germany, etc.
Yes, I'm continuing going through some of the questions. We got questions about the mother tongue program. I am not 100% certain I get the question, but the mother tongue program is, as I mentioned before, Italian, Russian, and Spanish. So those native speakers can continue with that program. The lessons usually happen during Islamic studies lessons. I am not certain what the question was precisely. Italian doing Islamic studies and mother tongue is German. So if those children who are doing mother tongue program are going to the mother tongue lessons. Those who are doing Islamic studies, which is a requirement if you're Muslim, are going to Islamic, and the others do some personal development sessions. Maybe that was the answer to the question, or that was the question. So the children do personal development sessions, reinforcement, moral education, and all these skills that are very important. But it would not be fair for those children who are staying or those who are going if we did extra math or extra English, for example. So they do some personal development sessions. So someone is asking about, can the children join the bilingual stream in French or German is not their mother tongue or spoken at home? Yes, it happens a lot. Yet again, I've mentioned about this triangular relationship. We would, and Alison would confirm that we would assess the children a little bit, because we would not help them if we, threw them into that sea, right in the middle of the sea. We need to assess the situation. We do personalize our teaching approach. We do personalize our advice as well to you. So each case is a case-by-case situation. We have children who are joining, and they're not mother tongue speakers. Their parents do not speak, but we need to work on a case by case and see how we can address those needs for each learner. Someone is asking about the American, yes, the American school. No, okay. Someone is mentioning that they come from an American system, and they could say they come from a British school, and they're worried that the English language in the bilingual stream is not strong enough. Now, I'll tell you one thing: English is everywhere in our environments. That's pretty easy to acquire. And if I mentioned earlier on language acquisition, the English language is everywhere. It's our business language, isn't it? We're talking now in English. So that's not exactly that. Now, if you're worried about the level, however, it is a statement, that's a bold statement. You will never be able to compare a monolingual system with a bilingual system. It is not fair, but actually it plays in the bilingual system favor. The skills acquired there, because of the IB as well, the transdisciplinary skills, the transversal abilities and capacities that the children gain from being exposed to a multicultural, multilingual environment, to me, of course, definitely outweigh the monolingual system, American or British or French, that's for sure. A good question about Arabic. We often get this for parents who are just joining us. Is it required to study Arabic? Yes, it is. It's a Ministry of Education requirement, and the minimum in primary is 4 lessons per week, which we celebrate. We have a fantastic Arabic department with a formidable head of Arabic, and the lessons are very engaging. Again, IB style, that's very important. So I have worked in different schools. Brian has worked in different schools in the UAE, and we could rather confidently, we were discussing this very recently, state that our Arabic department is once more second to none in the way they learn. So it's a requirement. If you're, we call them native and non-native. If you're a native child, you will have to do 6 lessons of Arabic a week. If you're non-native, it's 4 lessons a week. Alison, that's all I have for now. I've got, yes. Oh, support. Thank you. So questions about children now, the other way around, having no English whatsoever. Do we give them support? Actually, this is something that's maybe was lacking for my presentation today. We are, of course, well experienced in the matter. We have a lot of support layers. Very formally, we have a extremely developed and experienced inclusion department. We've got language assistants. We've got a language department with like an MFL, modern foreign language department. We've got French or German or English language support. So yes, we do take students with no English, and I am never making a promise whatsoever, but within 4 to 6 weeks, those children are making fantastic progress. Socially, they can speak very quickly. Now, to function at a high level cognitively, it takes a little bit longer. But yet again, as I stated before, English is not an issue in our environment, that's for sure. So no English is possible, and there's a lot of support, one-to-one, push in, that means the teacher goes in, or pull out when the children comes out and gets a one-to-one support. And we have a lot of online platforms as well, where the parents' commitment is important, so they are themselves also helping, supporting the learning by doing some exercises at home as well. Yes, so I was reading, right, so exactly, so I'm going back to the mother tongue program. That's exactly what I said. So if your child is not Muslim and they do not do the mother tongue program, indeed, they do some personal development lessons. Ryan, could you explain a little bit more what's happening during those lessons? That's yes. Really your
so we have PSE, personal social education. So what we do, this is, I say what we do, this is what has been designed by the government going back 15 years ago. It was deemed, if we have children going off to study Islamic, we cannot, like Mr. Gauthier said, continue with math or science because it would be deemed unfair. So this curriculum is developed. A framework is designed by the government, but then schools, just like the IB approach, the schools can then personalize. So we will mirror what's happening in Islamic studies in terms of the study of Islam, and focuses on the study of the person, the development of the person. So for example, we would study the 5 pillars in an Islamic lesson. What are the 5 pillars of Islam? 5 ways in which we should live our life, 5 ways in which we can develop young people. So we will have a PSE lesson that will look at the IB learner profile and say, okay, this week we're focusing on being strong communicators or being caring. And we will design lessons and have inquiries and do projects that will enable our children to develop these softer skills, these personal attributes. So it means that the Islamic students are developing their personality and who they are as a Muslim. And then the non-Muslim students will be developing their person in a non-religious way, if we put it that way.
Brian, there was a question on a very blunt question. How do you deal with discipline? Brian, we only have a few minutes, okay?
Yes, how we deal with discipline. We are a very proactive team here. We our whole philosophy is built around support. So of course we have behavior management, and sometimes we go down the more traditional strict route where we could have students who are missing playtime, who are suspended from school even. But generally speaking, before any of that happens, we use the IB learner profile to create students who are caring, risk-taking communicators, etc., as discussed. We work on chance, choice, consequence. So we recognize the fact that a child, every child, when they make a mistake, deserves a chance. We provide them with choices. So when you make a decision that isn't a very good decision, you will get a warning, you will get a choice to say you can continue down this path, or I would recommend you do this instead. And there'll be consequences. We focus not just on negative consequences, but positive consequences as well. So the positive consequence would be you listen to the teacher, you are able to stay in the lesson, and therefore you're able to enjoy our science inquiry. The negative consequence would be you will you miss the first 5 minutes of your playtime to do a reflection with me. And we focus on reflection and consequences. So we don't just lecture our students, we don't just tell them that they did the wrong thing, they made a bad choice. We reflect, we pose open-ended questions that say, how are you feeling in that moment when you made the bad decision? What would you do if you could do it all over again? How would you act differently? What will you do the next time? So our approach is a very proactive approach. It's a very restorative approach, and it's very reflective. We've been praised by the external government. We have a yearly inspection. We've been praised a lot on our approach to behaviour management and to positive education. We engage in restorative practices, which means, I'll give a very recent example. We had a group of younger boys who were using the toilet inappropriately. They were going to the one area of the whole school where there's no adult around. Very young boys, first time they'd ever used an open toilet without an adult, and they were mistreating the doors, etc. So after a period, one of the doors in the toilet managed to come off one of its hinges. So instead of punishing the boys more traditionally, banning them from the playground, etc., we have a restorative practice. So the boys worked with me. We asked them open-ended questions about why were these not good decisions? What would you do the next time? And then we posed to them, you're going to come back for a final meeting tomorrow, and you're going to tell me what it is you can do to restore, literally to restore the toilet back to the way it was, or more, to restore the balance of this situation. How can you show the school community that you are sorry and that you have learned this is a learning opportunity? And the boys said, well, we realized that the man, so the man is our maintenance man, will come and he'll have to spend time with his tools fixing the door. And we realized that that's going to be very hard for him. So we've made these posters. So they stayed in during their break time and they made posters saying, do not enter, the toilet is out of service, etc. And they spent about an hour creating these posters, and they put them up on the toilet to help the man. So the impact of that is this is much more meaningful. It's very easy as an educator to say, you did wrong, you're going to sit in that chair for 30 minutes. This is the way I was educated, and probably many of you. Instead, we had boys who really engaged, and at the end of this, they were able to see they're able to take action and see that they helped to restore normality to the school. And what we see in the long term is they are less likely to make poor decisions. They are better at reflecting on their actions, and they're equipped to make better decisions moving forward.
Thank you, Brian. That's a very comprehensive answer. Thank you. Someone was asking about how many classes we have. It's like all primary schools have experienced. I think it's kind of a pyramid format. So we have more classes in the lower primary, grade 1, 2, and then a little bit smaller number of classes in the upper primary. Currently, I think we have 7 in grade 1, and I think we're looking at next year 6 in grade 2, 6 classes in grade 2. Remember that some are English French, some are English German, some are IB STEAM. So it's along those lines. So that's the classes situation. There's a question again. The mother tongue is drawing many questions today. Can a Spanish non-native join the mother tongue? Again, ideally there should be a native speaker, but yet again, we do not know. It's a case by case. We'll assess the situation. You do not have to be born in Spain to do the mother tongue program, but you need to be extremely advanced to join that mother tongue program. That's for sure. I was trying to read. Oh yes, that's a good question. You know, how do kids manage with all the languages and the mother tongue? So not all of them do mother tongue again. Huh? There's been a lot of mother tongue today. They definitely do 2 languages and Arabic, so 3 languages for sure. I'll give you an answer, an educator's answer. The children cope, that's for sure. But also our teachers know how to do this. Our support systems, as mentioned before, are there to support as well. But just to give you an example, especially in the younger years, when the children join a bilingual school, there's a dilemma between knowledge and language. getting the knowledge, learning the fractions, and getting the language as well. Yet again, the teachers, two of them, remember, in the class, are able to differentiate and personalize their approach. So maybe that child just needs to focus right now on the knowledge first. The knowledge takes precedence, and eventually, so maybe their first language is French. We'll focus them getting that knowledge in French, and little by little, when they're more comfortable, they've acquired the knowledge, then we'll focus a bit more on the language. That's where, when with a two-teacher situation where the concept is being taught, then the teachers put children in groups to stretch some of them, to assist some others. So that's how it works. We're well practiced in this, and the children do cope as well. You know, it's the old saying that children are like sponges. They are at that age, that's for sure. It would be a lot more difficult for me now, even though I'm a bit of a language and I'm a language teacher, to learn a new language. That's for sure.
The research is telling us as well, Manuel, that when children are exposed to a bilingual environment like the one in our school, that on average it takes about 6 to 7 years. Not only do they cope, what the research is showing us is that the way the brain develops bilingually, they don't just cope and they're able to keep up with math, they're able to keep up with science. The way the brain develops, they actually begin to excel, not just in the languages and the language acquisition, they begin to excel in their mathematical problem-solving skills and their inquiry skills in science. So it feels like coping, I imagine, in the first year. And then I think once you go beyond a couple of years of this learning, the coping is far from the situation. You're more looking at children who are excelling.
It's true, Brian, and the recent PISA results from the school, the teams, and all these external assessments, worldwide assessments, prove that in our school for sure. Again, commitment and stamina might be required as well. Long school timings, Brian. Do you want to tell us a little bit? It's a long day, isn't it?
It is a long day on paper for sure. I know I can say with confidence, we are one of the schools in Dubai we start much later. So a lot of schools, their first lessons can be 7:30, 7:45. Ours are later in the day, so that will explain why we push to 3:30. But that's one small reason. But the very, very key reason is actually to do with student well-being. Believe it or not, we have more playtime and longer eating time than vast majority of schools in Dubai. So in a primary school, not just in Dubai, across the world really, you would usually have a morning break of 15 minutes and then a lunch time, a play time of about 45 minutes. We go far beyond that. We have 20 minutes of play in the morning and snack. We have a full hour in the middle of the day, and then we have a further 20 minutes. So that explains why the day pushes out. We don't sacrifice learning time, we just expand our day. So while the children are here longer, for example, in previous schools I've been in, you have 40 minutes to eat and to play at lunchtime. That usually translates to 20-20 split. If you've got 5, 6, 7-year-olds going over to a canteen, sitting formally at a table with cutlery, and it's a 2-course meal that they have, because they will have their main meal, but they'll also have a fruit pot or a piece of fruit or something like that for a dessert, let's say. We give them a full 30 minutes, and we can extend it if we need to. And then the playtime and the social time doesn't suffer either, because then they get another full 30 minutes outside again. So that 1 hour lunch probably sounds quite reasonable to an adult, but it's not very commonplace in primary schools. And then not only do we do that, we extend into then we have a 20-minute playtime in the afternoon. So it means we can develop the social side, which is hugely important for students.
Thank you very much, Brian. I believe this is the end of our question sessions, but as Alison said before, we are available for more discussions, for emails as well. Alison, I'll hand this back to you.
Hi, thank you. Thank you very much, everybody, for your time. Thank you for your questions. Thank you to Brian and Emmanuel for your very informative session. Please do share with us any comments, questions afterwards. Like I said, we will send you the recording of the session, and we hope to see you at SISD soon. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, everyone. See you soon.
Bye-bye.